studio. I'm guessing that the cloud of ash and the ash lockdown is on the front pages as well of the world's newspapers.
It is, in fact, and we'll start with The Independent, which when we were looking at it online this morning, the front page had no text on it at all, and I thought they were trying to have a dramatic photo just with no text, but in fact we discovered when we got it in, Ash Thursday is the headline with an improbable plane in the sky. I'm wondering if that's photoshopped, because there's been so little evidence of that in the last 24 hours. I don't think that's real at all. And so inside they're saying what we wanted from Iceland was cash. Now what we got instead was ash. So it's full of jokes of that nature. And the editorial is saying this is all starting to feel worryingly biblical. First, the Icelanders attempted to destroy our savings with their dodgy banks. Now they've sent a cloud of ash from the Eyjafjallajökull volcano, which has succeeded.
I think you failed miserably there pronouncing the name of that volcano.
I'd like to see you try, or anyone else for that matter. So they go on to say,
you chuck it over later on, and I'll give it a whirl.
Fair enough. And they say, what could be next? A plague of Icelandic frogs, perhaps? Locusts? So that's the general gist of things. In The Guardian, the technology editor is explaining why you have to ground flights, and of course it's because the ash can get into can affect the function of the propeller or jet aircraft because it's so fine.
Exactly, so because a lot of people think it's dust, but it's not actually dust. It's glass, it's minute rocks and sand as well.
Right, I didn't realise it was that dense, but in any case they're saying it can affect the machinery and jam it, and there have been examples of that in the past. The Financial Times, Iceland spared by the direction of the wind. This is of course the great irony. Reykjavik, just 125 kilometres away, has seen absolutely no effects at all.
Exactly, because the winds are sort of taking all of the ash away from Reykjavik, right? Eastwards.
Exactly, so I dare I say that I think there's probably a few smirks in Iceland this morning, especially because of the standoff with the UK and all of that. Now,
it's payback time, eh?
Pretty much. Now, let's have a look at the Daily Mail and some photos, because in fact volcanic ash can lead to some incredible sunsets. So we have got some examples of that here in Heathrow Airport. The first two photos is also one in Birmingham, the sunset in Birmingham, and I think the final photo shows the dramatic pinks and purples that can be seen at the volcano itself. So close to home.
The culprit in this drama.
Indeed. Now, the Daily Telegraph has a kind of a funny take on things as well. They show a graph, which shows the extent to which it's affected all of Northern Europe, and they say it surprisingly resembles a shoe firmly being stamped on, with Britain firmly being stamped on by the ball of the foot. So I suppose this is the most obvious, a parallel
like
being drawn.
Out a cigarette or something.
Something like that. Now, the Times is saying that the great ash cloud stole the thunder from the great historic debate, and of course that's the other big story of the day, and we'll move on to that now, because they're saying that there was some spouting, a bit of rumbling, not a lot of fire, and much less lava erupting. That's a reference to the opening statements of that debate. If we move to the front page of The Guardian, which I have somewhere, you've got the plane, and you've also got Clegg. The outsider seizes his moment in the TV spotlight. Now, he was the outsider. He's the Liberal Democrats leader. 1 in 3 Brits apparently don't even know his name, but he was by far the most successful in that debate.
But it's really interesting to see that the British press has really dubbed him the winner in this debate.
Exactly, and halfway through, apparently, there was an ITV poll putting him at 50%, so he was well ahead of the other two. He cast himself as, I suppose, somebody who was trying to offer an alternative to the other two parties, and he was quite successful in that. And if we move to the Daily Mail, they have a little analysis of the body language of all three. For Nick Clegg, he was good at playing the everyman. He was, he gesticulating accusingly at the other two and speaking in the words and the tone of ordinary people. They say for David Cameron, he was the most statesmanlike, the most presidential, using pseudo-fight gestures like mimed punching and stabbing and chopping. So pretty aggressive stuff. And as for Gordon Brown, they're pretty critical. They're saying that he sailed through cautiously like a barge being towed up the Thames, and they say that he failed to stifle his ghastly lightning smile, which is a rigid grin that appears and disappears just as quickly.
I'm happy to see that all of the leaders, they wore appropriately coloured ties. Gordon Brown something pink, Nick Clegg a yellow tie, and David Cameron a blue tie.
Very much coordinated with their parties, indeed.
Exactly. Thanks very much, James Creedon, for taking us through the international press studio this morning. Still to come here on France 24, we'll bring you more details on the travel chaos.